Greetings, dear friends, fellow programmers, and those aspiring to be. Today, we are going to enter the intricate world of .NET together, as you're already used to. Today, we will be covering a very essential topic that makes a huge difference when you master it. I'm talking about a smart and great way to work with configurations in ASP.NET Core. And for this, we already have a lot of support from ASP.NET Core in its base. I'm talking about its options pattern, and basically that options pattern is going to allow us, by the end of this video, to be true masters of working with configurations. I can promise you that. One might say that options pattern in ASP.NET Core is like a superhero who fights improper usage of configurations and their basically use in projects. It provides a clean and elegant way to work with configurations and also making our lives a lot easier as developers. If you have still not mastered options pattern in ASP.NET Core, you might think that working with configurations is a true nightmare, because ASP.NET Core allows us the flexibility to work with multiple different sources of configurations. You can use app settings, which is the base thing that everybody is used to. Also, we have secrets, but also you can connect any cloud-based service for storing configurations, like Key Vault, or anything like that you can use for holding external configuration files. And ASP.NET Core already knows how to work with those configurations out of the box. But it doesn't mean that it's easy to work with them if you're not doing it properly. So I think it's highly beneficial for you to pay very close attention to this video, because you will benefit a lot from it. Imagine the following scenario. You are a business owner. This sounds nice already. And you have a candy store. And inside of that candy store, you have things that you need to store somehow. Basically, I'm talking about things like candy prices or working hours or some special sale days that you can configure and update over the time, and your application should not have them hard-coded inside of them. Because if you hard-code them, you will need to do it in multiple places, and that's going to be a living nightmare when you want to change something. So you definitely do want to work with configuration files that are going to store all of those values that you will be using in your application. Basically, you just update it in your configuration, and across entirety of your application, everything is updated. But still, if you are not utilizing options pattern, this can be a very painful experience. But if you do use it, it suddenly becomes way easier and more manageable. Because with options pattern, you will have a class which is going to be binded to certain sections in your configuration files, and then ASP.NET Core is going to use the configuration data and push it into the class properties and allow you to work with objects, not with some strings that you need to parse and manage every time you want to use them. So this is a lifesaver. But I really think that right now it was enough chit-chat about the options pattern and configurations in theory. I think it's a great moment to jump into our Visual Studio and see it in action. As you can see, I have prepared a very simple example for you. As I promised, our options pattern will be using objects that are going to be binded to our configuration files. So for that case, I have prepared a simple class with only 3 properties. One is of type double, one is of type string, and one is list of strings. I just wanted to ensure that you will see how it works with different types of configurations. So basically, we have candy price, which is a double, we have opening hours, which is a string, and we also have a list of strings representing special discount days. So now let me open up settings file and show you that right here we have the same exact thing as right here. So basically we first have a section which is called exactly like our class, Candy Shop Settings. Then we have Candy Price, which is again called exactly the same as our property, opening hours, and special discount days, which is an array of strings. And now we need to teach ASP.NET Core how it can convert from this right here into our concrete objects on the other side of the rainbow. So let's learn how to do that. We will first have to jump into our program.cs file because that is where the magic happens. So as you expect, we already have our Candy Shop Settings class that we are going to introduce by using our builder services and its configure method that is at our disposal. Then in angled brackets, we specify which type we want to use, and as a parameter, we will send our section of the configuration file called Candy Shop Settings, which is exactly the name that we have right here. So that should all work perfectly fine. This should teach ASP.NET Core to bind values from this section into a concrete object of this class. And now basically what I want to do is just run our code, and as you can see right here, all of our configuration values are printed perfectly fine. This seems to be working as expected. Just to show you how this works under the hood, I have created a minimal API which we are using to basically display the stuff we want to see from configuration. And one thing to note here is when you are sending your class that is containing configurations, you need to wrap it in iOptions interface. So you will always do this when you want to inject a value through dependency injection and you are creating a private field or whatever. You want to wrap the class that contains your configurations inside of iOptions interface. So that is exactly what we have right here. And we have injected this value, then we read the value of the options and just print out the message that you just saw on the screen. So everything works as expected. Right now, you saw that this works. You also saw how easy it is to map your configurations that look like a bunch of JSON into a class that will contain properties and basically instantiate a new object that you can work with a lot more elegantly and without the need to parse stuff manually. It will be done for you behind the curtains. You just need to worry about naming, but even though if you do not have the same names in your class properties and the configuration, you can overcome that as well without any issues. You can just use attributes that will specify that certain properties in the configuration should be mapped into the given property in your class. You can Google about it, it's a very simple thing. Just have in mind that you can do that. But before we wrap things up for this video, I would like to cover another thing related to options pattern that is a bit more advanced. I'm talking about validation of your configuration. So you will be working with options pattern and you will have a concrete class that is going to be mapped from the values in configuration. But what if you want to check whether the values in configuration file are valid? Because sometimes it might happen that somebody not familiar with the business itself has configured your setup of the application improperly and everything starts exploding. So I'm sure you do not want to allow that to happen. And again, in that case, ASP.NET Core has our backs because we have option validation functionality. Let me show you what I mean. So we're back in our Visual Studio and here you can see that I have added another class that is going to be called Candy Shop Settings Validation, and it will inherit from iValidateOption interface, and in angled brackets we specify for which concrete options class we want to apply this validation, and in our case it's going to be Candy Shop Settings. So when we do that, we will see that the interface requires us to implement a single interface. So when I remove it and then go implement missing interface, you will see that we have validate method that is required in order to implement iValidateOptions interface. So let me restore my version of it, which is already implemented. And inside of it, you can see that as parameters, we have the name of this validation. And also we have the settings that we want to validate, basically. So let's say that we just want to check whether the candy price is less than 0, because price cannot be less than 0. And if it is less than 0, we will return validateOptionsResult.fail method. So this will receive a message that we want to send that is going to be an indicator what went wrong. And in our case, candy price cannot be negative. So let me update the configuration to make our price negative indeed. And also we need to register our configuration in program CS file, which is done in the following way. So as you can see, we're adding a singleton because validation doesn't need to be instantiated over and over again. We can use a single instance across the entire lifespan of our application. So we first note that we are providing an implementation for iValidateOptions interface for the Candy Shop Settings class, which is inheriting options interface. And also we are providing a concrete implementation for this interface, which is Candy Shop Setting Validation. And when I run the code, as you can see, we're getting the message that we have defined. Candy price cannot be negative. And as soon as we switch back to our positive price and refresh the page, everything seems to be working perfectly fine, as was the case previously. And there you have it. Now you have successfully mastered how to utilize options pattern in your day-to-day programming life and become a much better developer, because trust me when I say this is a must. You will never be an amazing developer if you do not know this. So now you not only know how to use options pattern, how to map it into your classes, but also how to make sure that all the configuration values are 100% correct. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, I would like to invite you to subscribe to the channel because it really means a lot. And also, for the end, I would like to invite you to join and take a look at my playlist dedicated to dependency injection series. Take a look if you find anything interesting to you, and enjoy the rest of the videos. Thank you for watching and have an amazing day. Happy coding!